Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Sayali Gaikwad. I was selected in CSE 2020. So I'm a civil servant of batch 2021. I'm currently Assistant Director ICLS, Indian Corporate Law Service, and currently undergoing training. So the purpose of today's session is to share with you how I increased my interview score from 160 in my previous interview to 209 in this interview. So, let me share you first of all when I went for my first interview, uh, and it was also my first attempt. So I was fresh out of college, 22 years old, and we are very idealistic and childish, naive in that age. So those qualities and traits also came out in the interview, and I'll share the questions also of those of that interview, wherein maybe some answers did not go well, or what in retrospectively what issues I found out in that score, and how I improved it in this attempt and this interview, and I scored 209. So I will go from the very basic, filling a DAF. So how do you fill a DAF? So first is be very honest in your DAF. Do not bluff or do not write anything that is very fancy that you think will impress the board, etc. This is a myth. Secondly, now I'll just go through the details of a sample DAF. Like there is your name, your email ID. Starting from your name. So write the name as per document, etc. This is a very basic thing, but still people make mistakes here. Then your email ID. So try to keep the email ID also sensible. Like I have seen very funny email IDs like XYZ name, and then there is some quirky word which maybe you have created that email ID when you were in school or something. So make a new email ID if that is the case, because questions will be asked even on the smallest of details. Then date of birth, address of correspondence. So address is very important. Whatever you write in your address, for example, Ambedkar Nagar. So Ambedkar is a keyword which will be picked up from your address, or Mumbai. So if you are from Mumbai, then the historical significance of that place, if there are any current events related to that place. So all that will be asked. Next important thing in your DAF is, so here I can see Bagpat, Uttar Pradesh. So your home state. So you have to be well versed with that. Next is he has also been working as a Tehsildar in UP. So your work experience is one important aspect, one area which they will focus upon, and they will be very eager to know whether you are knowing what you have worked on, what are the skills you developed during that period. Next thing in your DAF, your optional, and also your medium of answering. So maybe you have given some medium for mains and something else for interview. So they may even ask you basic questions, whether you're comfortable with the same medium, whether you want to change. So that is some question that is not a very big deal, and you have to be very comfortable. Ki, sir, I am, or you can politely request them also that I'd like to speak in both languages, bilingual, just English, whatever. Details about your parents and family. So many a times this question is the first question that they will ask you. Tell us something about yourself. And one of my juniors was asked, tell us about yourself in 40 seconds. So that 40-second thing, tell us about yourself, was still fine. Then that added layer of 40-second was why he became very nervous. So it's a very small thing. You just tell your name, your basic qualification, and the latest thing that you're doing, and if time permits, then your hobby, or whatever you want the board to take up. For example, if you really want them to notice your hobby, then you would explain it, or you would mention it during the start of the interview. And if it is a longer introduction, then about your family. My parents, my father is so and so, my mother does this work, or my sibling, etc. Then comes your educational qualifications. So here also be very conscious of what you are writing. For example, the full name of your school or the full name of your college, that every keyword of that will be asked. For example, here Christ University. So from that the whole discussion can go on Christianity or some religious domain, or tell us something about Jesus Christ. This is very basic. So whatever you are mentioning, be very aware of that. Next is your employment. So if there are any details, so I'll share my own experience. I was working with NABARD, National Agricultural Bank for Rural Development, and I had just joined 6 months before my interview. My interview was in September and I had joined in March. So it was not written in the employment section, it was written in the hobbies and achievement section, because there was some filling technicality of the DAF. So chairman noticed it. The first thing that she noticed was, okay, you have written that you are working, so tell us something about it. So the whole discussion went from like my basic to my work experience, and not so much about my work because I had just joined, but my place of posting, which was Chennai, and then comparison between my hometown and Chennai. Basic things, okay, so you went to Chennai, what was your first reaction? You have lived your whole life in Pune, so did you feel something different about the place? What is one negative thing about Chennai that you found out? So all these things, these are small trigger points, but and these questions are the warmer questions, or the questions that they ask us not to make us uncomfortable. They just want to make us comfortable, sit in a place and feel that okay, now you have started a conversation. Because if they just start with a question like, okay, what do you think about India's foreign policy, that is not how they generally start. So be very comfortable with these kind of questions. These are just starters, and the more comfortable you are in answering them, the more comfortable you will be in the interview. Because now, for example, if they're asking me, okay, what was your first reaction when you went to Chennai, and I'm thinking, why is she asking me this? I have prepared for foreign policy, I have prepared for work of NABARD and all of those things, and half of your mind is occupied with that. So one takeaway in this is presence of mind. You answer what you are asked. So she asked me what one negative thing you think about Chennai. So whatever I had to say, I said, and I moved on. So that is one takeaway from my interview that I feel I should share with you. Presence of mind and being in that moment. Do not think about whether I'll be selected. अभी इस attempt में नहीं हुआ तो फिर अगले बार prelim में बैठना है, माँ बाप को क्या बोलने वाले हैं हम लोग, etc etc. So all those things you have to filter out. Just be there. So all those techniques and everything I'll share a little later on. So now in this DAF, I also see that he has given like his record of attempts. So he has cleared so and so mains, prelims, whatever, interview, etc. So if they ask you, okay, so I see that you are investing 4 or 5 years of your life in giving attempts, and I think you're not doing anything else in your life. And if you're going to get bogged down with that, or if you feel upset, or you just lose your confidence with that statement, because these are the kind of questions that they will ask you. So how do we deal with that? The basic is be very proud of yourself and be very happy about what you have achieved. You have started preparing for civil services, and you decided, it was a conscious choice to invest your time and years and money, and emotionally also invested in this process, because you had a goal or a dream. It was not like a women fancy of yours that you just kept on giving, or it is not something you should feel sorry about. So this is one takeaway. Do not feel sorry about anything that is in your DAF. Either it is, okay, I have not worked at all, or my hobby section is empty, or I have never held a position of leadership, or I have not played any sport, or I come from a very small rural town of India. I can't speak English. So on English, I'll tackle it separately. Then Then coming to the hobbies part. So, particulars at the university, state, national level in respect of prizes, medals, scholarships. So here, sports, positions of leadership in school or college, and other extracurricular activities and interests such as hobbies, etc. So I would like to say, sometimes it may happen that you think that you don't have a hobby or you have never held a position of leadership or something. This is just your understanding of yourself. I would encourage you all to just introspect, look at your life in retrospection, and just dig out. Even if it is a small thing, like in school you were heading some team for some small tournament or something, that can be phrased in a very nice way and written in the tab. So I would encourage everybody not to leave any of this empty, because I personally don't believe that we have not had any connection with any of these four categories. We have won some or the other prize, even if it is something in some Ganpati festival or something that, you know, that was an achievement. Obviously, phrasing it nicely to suit the dignity of the DAF, that is a different thing altogether. But just think about your achievements and dig out from your past, sports or NCC. Even if for a small time you have been, for 6 months you were playing baseball or some basketball or some cricket or something like that, and if you can work upon that and prepare yourself during the time that you have been given till your interview day, I think it is worth mentioning in the DAF. Second point is, don't go on putting everything in that. Like I have seen some devs, every small thing that I was a monitor of the class, or I was prefect in school, or I was head girl in school, something or the other, and that thing becomes, see, for them, for the panel, they are going to see so many devs in a single day. So for them also it has to be readable and visible. So put your best foot forward. So if for example, I had a lot of variety in my DAF. So then this time I decided to cut down. Like I had 3 hobbies. So I cut down and I put only one, because I wanted the discussion to go in a channelized way, and that happened. Only that one thing was discussed and it went on very smoothly. For prizes and medals also. So I was head girl in school, and I had also won some awards for Model United Nations. So then I made a choice to just put Model United Nations and the award that was there. So the discussion went on UN and IR and the working of UN. Do you think the UN has failed, etc.? And these were questions that I was expecting. So it was not a challenge for me. So 2 things about this section. Don't keep it empty as far as possible, and don't overdo it also. Like don't keep on putting stuff in that, because then it becomes, they will miss out on the main thing. Then maybe they will capture only something that is very frivolous and something that will not generate a discussion also. Then preferences. So the normal preferences that service preference that people give is IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, and then the rest central services follow. So in that also, if you have some unique preference, for example, my first preference was IFS. So then I was expecting a question that why IFS, why not IAS, and what is your motivation about it, etc. So be prepared. Do not be in this factor that they'll not take your preferences seriously, or no questions will be asked on this. I have even seen a DAF where the first preference of a person was IRS, income tax. And then the panel asked him about why it is so and so. And he could not answer it well, because there was some real reason in his mind which he was hiding, that showed in his body language. And that is not something that should happen on that day, because that shows that there is some contradiction in your personality, that you're being dishonest. First of all, integrity can be questioned, and intellectual as well as moral also. So be prepared if you have put something like this. So Vishwajeet sir, who was my mentor from LevelUp, So in a mock, he had asked me, why did you feel like joining the civil service? So then I started giving a very because we have not, when we started, that reason was very stark, and then 4 or 5 attempts down the lane, you forget that reason. Why did you start actually? So I gave some answer that public service and my interest in IR and all of that. Then he said, no, I don't think this is the real. In the feedback, he said, no, this is not the real reason. You just dig deeper and find out why you actually started. And then I actually went back to those memories. I jogged my memory and I understood why I had started. So it was a very personal thing that when I was in my 10th standard, I had seen a retired IAS officer give a lecture in some forum, and that was the trigger point that inspired me. Okay, I want to be like this person. And after that, obviously, I went on. I also got to know about IFS. Then my interest in IFS with IR and all those linkages that popped up. So that is how I actually answered. But this question was not asked in my actual interview. But that is how I should have answered in the actual interview if this question was asked. So some people have IPS as first preference. So you have to have that clarity and oneness with whatever you have written in your DAF. It should not portray that, okay, he has written something else in his DAF and he's a different person. So that shows that you have a fake personality or you don't have integrity, or at times you may lie also. And that is a liability for the services. Also, I would suggest that have a small brief understanding of all these services. Like there are 19 services in this form. So it might happen that they might ask you, okay, what do you know about this service? So for example, I got allocated into the Indian Corporate Law Service. So when I joined, I didn't have much idea, something about corporate law that the service does. Now that I've entered the service, now I know how much power it wields. It is empowered with an act, with companies law, which is the longest act in India, and the power that the law gives the officers. There are so many powers that from registration to liquidation to search and seizure. So all these things we did not know. So just go to the DOPT website and just have a brief profile of all these services, so brief understanding of what these services do. And so some basic questions where we falter a lot, which I have seen a lot. When questions come as to, okay, what does your father do? Or what does your mother do? So we are not prepared well for personal questions, because it never happens that we are sitting, like we sit with some monthly magazine and we are religiously reading, okay, today this economic policy has come, I'll read about it. So you never sit down with a father and actually ask him what he does. Or you have never sat down with a mother and ask her, even if she's a homemaker, okay, what do you do on a daily basis, or etc., or what a sibling does. So during that interview, no, be very mindful and be very aware of your surroundings. Talk to people as much as possible. And if you're working, it is even better, because in a official setting, or if in a formal setting, you interact with people in a different way. So suppose today if you talk to me as an individual and me as an assistant director, Minister of Corporate Affairs, these are two different people. As an individual, I'll give my personal opinions, but when I'm sitting in that interview chair, I have to sit as a future aspiring bureaucrat. So so now coming to the preparation part, how I prepared for the change, that 49 marks increase. So there are two parts of preparation. One is content, one is personality. So the biggest mistake that aspirants do after qualifying for mains, getting an interview call, is they sit down in the study room and then they try to acquire as much information and knowledge that they have, because this myth that I should be able to answer each and every question. I personally said, I do not know, sir, or I don't recall, sir, for 7 questions in my interview. and still I have scored 209. So this is a complete myth that if you don't know something, your marks are going to be reduced. I have heard from various sources that marks are given only for a question that you have answered, or for which you speak something or give your opinion or give some information. When you say I do not know or I do not recall or you can't attempt that question, no marks are given or deducted or nothing is evaluated from that question, because they are also human beings. They also know that you are not you're not God. You can't know everything, and you have to be absolutely okay with not knowing something. So just yesterday I met a friend who has given mains this time, and he shared his interview experience of a previous year. And he said, they asked me some question. I said, I don't know, sir. Then they asked me a second question. I said, I don't know, sir. Third question also came by and I didn't know. And then I started feeling very guilty and jittery and very anxious, and I lost half my confidence there. So while discussing, what came across is that he was guilty of not knowing, or he was sorry about not knowing, and that is what I did not do in my interview. I had around 2 months of time for preparing. Every single day I told myself, it is okay if you do not know something, and be absolutely proud of whatever you have achieved till now. So for example, I have done my graduation in BTech Computer Science. After that, I have done my Masters in Political Science, which was my optional. So in mocks also, a lot of times they grill us about it. Okay, you did BTech and then you did a Masters in Humanities. So it is such a loss for engineers and etc. etc. So I was not at all apologetic. I said, sir, today's education ecosystem in India allows me to pursue my multifaceted and various interests. So I was interested in computer science when I finished my 12th standard, and I did that with equal zeal and enthusiasm. And later on, I developed an interest in political science as well. And I thought that I should pursue it academically and get a professional certification out of it. So when you are not apologetic, when you stop feeling sorry about life choices, about your own life choices, that confidence also reflects. And they like people who are comfortable with themselves. You can't do something in your life and feel sorry about it to people who are strangers to you. Like this interview panel, they are not even your relatives or family that you have to be sorry about, or you have to be honest, and you have to accept who you are. This is a very philosophical or meta thing that I'm telling you, that be who you are or accept yourself, embrace yourself. Trust me, this is one thing I had done which reflected in my personality, and it reflects in each answer that you give. Then next thing is, I'll just share the do's and don'ts during the content part also. So when you are preparing for content, for example, so for the most important part, stop preparing like you were preparing for pre and mains. You have to start with a newspaper, scan it in 5 minutes, and just think about things that are related to your DAF and note down those things. And also things that will be asked to you irrespective of your DAF, which are international relations and economic policies, events that are happening, phenomena happening around you. So these are going to be asked to each and every candidate irrespective of your DAF. And then go back to the newspaper, frame questions on these topics. Like studying question answer format. So if I'm asked this question, then how will I answer? So for example, there was this article 2-3 days back about Supreme Court saying that just filling up the vacancies is not going to help the judicial pendency. So if this question is asked to you, so how will you answer? You think about this first. Let the thinking process happen first, then the reading process. So you have to go in the reverse way. For mains, you are reading first, thinking first, then articulating, then writing. For interview, you have to start thinking, start generating questions first about any topic. Then think about possible, probable questions that may be asked. Then find out answers for that in that article. And on that day of your interview, you do not substantiate those answers with in this article I had read and this so and so person said, or this report said 85% something something, percentages, reports, names, thinkers, all that is means. So I'll also read out the words and everything, instructions that they have given in the notification itself. That makes it very clear how to prepare. So that is one thing you have to avoid. You have to talk in your own way, your own understanding, your own opinions. So here in the notification they have given, the candidate will be interviewed by a board who will have before them a record of the candidate's career. The candidate will be asked questions on matters of general interest. The object of the personality test is to assess the personal suitability of the candidate for a career in public service by a board of competent and unbiased observers. So they are themselves telling that we are only checking your personal suitability. You may be a very good person or very good professional in your independent field, but are you suitable for being a bureaucrat? So for example, in my first interview, I was asked a question about left-wing extremism because I had visited those places and those districts of my own state. So I had stayed with the tribal people and everything for around 2 weeks. So I had a great idea about it also, and I was very excited about it, that I want to share my observation and my understanding. And when the chairman asked me, okay, so it was a very long and monologuous question, and then he asked me, okay, so why do you think it is still prevalent? So then I very idealistically replied that, sir, the development that the government is pursuing is very superficial. It is not similar to the tribal way of life, and it is imposed top down. So looking back now, being an officer, what I see is this was a very naive answer. Officers and government has been working on the field. They are working despite so many adversities. It is very easy for us to say that do this, do that, bring this revolution and change this. But the system has formed with such change and it has evolved with so much of time and energy and people's efforts. We fail to understand it from a student's perspective. So one thing we have to change within ourselves from this to next 2-3 months. Stop being a student. Don't be in that student mode. You have to walk, talk, eat, behave like an officer. Like you must have heard of the proverb, fake it till you make it. So from tomorrow, try going to the study room. Even if you're going to a study room, try going in formal clothes. Or think like an officer. What would you wear on a daily basis? You would not go shabby somewhere. You would like dress up well. Take yourself seriously. And even while you're talking with your friends, no loose talk for the next 2-3 months. Like be aware of yourself, what kind of words you're using. Are you being very critical or cynical or skeptical about things going on? So you may not be in agreement with some of the policies or some things that are going on around you. You have to think from the other side as well. You have to think from the perspective of the government. Think of yourself as an agent of the government who is here to implement developmental policy. If that is the mandate of your thought process, you will come up with different answers. As individuals, you might find that, okay, this so and so policy, I am completely against this. But as an officer who's implementing the same policy, like think about it that way, that you are somebody who is implementing Manrega and you are a secretary in that ministry of rural development. Then your perspective will be different. Then you will say that this scheme has achieved so much. There are deficiencies, but the achievements are so much that this scheme has to go forward. And then you will moderate yourself also. As a student, you will say, oh, Manrega, so many failures are there. Payments are not being done on time. And it has to be digitalized. And technology has to be used, etc. Now, one nuance you have to understand. India is such a diverse country. Sitting in Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore, it is very easy to say introduce technology in this and all solution, like all problems will vanish. We have such remote areas and villages where only 10 to 15 villagers live and they do not even have a road. Like we do not even have a road or concrete road to access those villages. And to them we have to give financial inclusion, we have to ensure that they vote or they're able to vote. So for that, nuance to come in your answers is very important. So you have to always tell that yes, a technology can be used for so and so reasons, and it has to be broader based because we have to include all these people also. So we have to move to the grassroots, etc., etc. So when your answers are layered now, then it becomes very easy for the board also. When you convey that you are ready for the service, you are trainable for the service, you are not some entity alienated from it, you understand how the system works. I think that makes a lot of difference. Then the next wording of the notification is personality test is intended to judge the mental caliber of a candidate. In broad terms, this is really an assessment of not only intellectual qualities but also social traits and interest in current affairs. So I'm just focusing on the keywords: mental caliber, intellectual qualities, social traits, and interests in current affairs. So about social traits, so they will ask you questions wherein they'll try to take you in a direction which might bring out your not so good part. For example, we might be opinionated on some social issues, or things like dowry or women's issues, or oppressed classes, or religion for that matter, or God. But as officers, as future officers, these will take a back seat when you are working as an IAS officer or as an IPS officer, and that has to be showcased there. So try to first of all try to imbibe such a personality which is in aligned with our constitution, whatever our preamble has mentioned: fraternity, equality, justice, and so on and so forth. Try to be as much aligned to that idea of our constitution, personally also, emotionally also, and that will reflect in your answers. Interest in current affairs, so that is something that everybody will obviously work hard on. Some of the qualities to be judged are mental alertness. Now, how do they judge mental alertness? So you must have experienced interviews, or you must have heard your friends telling you, यार बहुत लंबा कुछ पूछा उन्होंने और फिर मैं भूल गया what they were actually saying, and then in the last some question was asked and I forgot, and then I had to ask them again, sorry sir, can you please repeat? There is an intention behind long monologuous questions. They are assessing your mental alertness. Why? As an IAS officer, as a DM of a district, you have to meet so many people on a daily basis, and that meeting is just 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, you have to listen to so many people, summarize, take your call, make a decision, and direct your team or whoever is in charge to mobilize those funds or manpower or whatever. And such 5 minute meetings are going to take like they are going on for a whole day. So that is what they're assessing, whether you can comprehend, whether you're alert, or if your mind is wandering. So if I'm talking to you, your full focus has to be to what I'm saying or what I'm asking. Why this happens? Why do people falter or mentally fatigue? Why does that happen? Because back of the mind you're like, okay, question kab aayega, when you'll ask me the actual question. I know a lot and I want to answer, but can you just cut down on your words, and I don't have patience to listen to you. And second thing is, if I can't give answer to this question, I am going to get bad marks, I am going to fail. And again, as I mentioned the previous issues, prelim देना पड़ेगा, फिर सेटम देना, फिर ORM में रहना पड़ेगा, पेरेंट्स को क्या बताएंगे, etc., etc. All that clutter has to go out of your mind from this moment. That is the first step you will take to 200 plus score. Because if you are not present in that moment, if you are not actively and proactively conversing, interview is what? It's a conversation with 5 very well educated and established people. That's all. It's a conversation with 5 people who have worked for 30-35 years in the service and who have a lot of diverse experience. And that itself becomes a reason for us to bog down. That, oh, there is 150 years of experience sitting in front of me and they are here to grill me, and I need to impress them. No, you don't have to impress them. You have to be the best version of yourself. You have to listen actively to them and take it as an opportunity to talk and interact with the best of minds in India. If you take it as a burden or a baggage, it will reflect in those 20, 25, 30 minutes of your interview. If you take it as an opportunity, as a in a good way, that you're conversing with such good people, that itself will make a lot of difference. So treat that interview process as something that is an opportunity. Don't make it a life or death issue, that this opportunity is given to just 2000, 1000 people of India. I have been selected after filtering out of lakhs of people, and if I don't get selected, and all those things, I have been through that. That is why I had 160 before, and I was able to work on myself and cut down on all of that, because I knew tension leke, nervous hoke, if I enter the examination hall, it is, I am guaranteeing a decrease in my marks. So then I decided, why not be in a mental state where I'm present, where I'm listening to what they say, and trust me, listening to them actively, and every single word that they say is the most important thing in your interview. Nothing is more important than that. Because if you listen properly, you will be able to frame the right answer. So I have so many juniors telling me, ma'am, they asked me some question and then there were 2-3 parts and I completely forgot about one part. And I just kept on saying about one thing. Then I had another friend telling me that they asked me some question related to dowry. So that question was, the question was that women have become so empowered. Still, monologous opinions followed by women are so empowered today. Then still, why dowry is present, etc., etc. So now, because if it was a monologous long question, his focus was only on dowry. So his mind went back to his accumulated knowledge memory and he started digging out, okay, whatever I know about dowry, good points I'm going to tell them. The focus of the question was missed. Panel had asked him women's empowerment and dowry relation. So that was completely missed. So this is one thing I would highly encourage. Be there, listen to the panel very properly. Critical powers of assimilation. Again, coming back to this, that if 3 parts of the question are asked to you and you're not able to capture that I have to do this, this and this. So it shows that you will also, as a DM or as a SP of a district, you will achieve your tasks partially. If you can't focus on everything at once, which is the requirement of bureaucrats today, because so many things are happening on such a dynamic real-time level, so many crises erupt at real-time dynamic level, that you need to have this quality inside you. Clear and logical exposition. What this means is, so when they ask you a broad question and you know that it is a very broad question, it's not factual or something, it's your opinion. So you start taking the liberty of giving long answers. The best quality of a bureaucrat is what? To be very precise, to speak 2 or 3 sentences, but they're so clear and so succinct that the whole idea is conveyed. So I was personally asked a question, how do you see India in 2050? And then he also smiled, I also smiled, that okay, we both understood that this is such a broad question. Then he said, I know you're not an astrologer, but still take a wild guess. So then I took a 3-4 minute pause. Pausing is very important for your mind to articulate well. Before opening your mouth, think what you're going to say, choose your words properly, and then it's okay. Long pause is also okay. You can ask for permission that, sir, I'd like to take a few seconds before answering this. So verbalize what you're thinking. That also helps you. And then I said, I gave a very grounded and rooted answer. I did not say anything that was fancy or very idealistic. I said, sir, the poverty levels will be definitely much lesser than they are today. On the international front, we are engaging with multiple stakeholders, including countries, businesses and cultural groups, etc. So I think we will have a better place in the world order, emerging world order. And again, socio-economic, everything I touched in one sentences. So, if you, I've seen candidates that they'll go on about the economy part for like, and then the panel is like, now if you don't cut him off or cut her off, it is going to go on. Then that is somewhere that they will cut you. No, I'm asking about this. So make sure that when you are asked a broad question, limit to 1 or 2 sentences of every aspect. So I finished IR in one line, I finished economy in one line, social in one line. And my fourth sentence was, sir, I think India will be a stable and harmonious society. So this word choice also I feel is very important. That it was not something very that India will become a world power or something like that. It is something that I also hope for, that India should be stable, harmonious as a society itself. That is what I said. And I think in retrospection, I feel that this is what impressed them the most, that my answers were rooted, grounded, honest, and realistic. Because as students, as aspirants, when we go to a UPSC interview, we have so many unique ideas and so many ambitions that our system should be much better than what it is today. But in our answers, we fail to address the current realities as well. That is it even possible to have 0% poverty in 2050? No. That nuance has to come. That problems will be there, but we are gradually moving forward a better version. Then balance of judgment. So again, so especially for for male candidates, if questions are asked about women issues or dowry, so whatever your personal opinion is, always try to have a balance. Do not go overboard on, and do not become emotional with some questions. So for example, you come from a very rural background and there are a lot of farmer issues in your state, and uh, they ask you about farmers bills, and you give some opinion which is so against the ethos of that bill. Whatever the criticism or whatever the controversy regarding that bill may be, you have to think as a officer who is implementing that bill. When you step in those shoes, you will understand how you have to talk, or how better you can implement that policy, or how do you justify that policy to an outsider or to a person who is against that policy. That standpoint, that viewpoint has to come, and it will come from practice. So when you start from today till your interview date, this is one thing that you have to incorporate. Depth of interest. Now, government does not want superficial people. Like मैंने ये किया 1-2 महीने, फिर छोड़ दिया, फिर कुछ और किया, and I don't have much clarity also. So somebody who is writing cricket in his DAF has to know every small basic definition. Even if they ask you the dimensions of a ground, or the dimensions of a pitch, or the standards, what kind of ball is used in ODI, what kind of ball is used in test cricket, etc. These basic things, so even if you're playing gully cricket, you have to be aware. Go to the internet, Google, Wikipedia page, cricket, everything you should be aware of. These are some questions you cannot falter. So for me, my hobby was studying saris of India and collecting saris of India from across all Indian states. So then last member asked me a last question, which was factual. What is Tana and Bana? And I knew it because it was a very basic detail of a sari, that horizontal and vertical yarn is called Tana and Bana. So if I had faltered on that, I would have seen a reduction in my marks. Because if you are claiming that you understand saris or the making of a sari, you have to be aware of the very basic thing, how it is made. So this is something that shows your depth of interest. Ability for social cohesion and leadership. Now this will be tested in contingency questions. For example, if they make you, they'll give these questions like, you are a SP of a riot-ridden district, and now you have been given responsibility, and one section of the society is coming to you very aggressively, and you have to quell the riot, and all those things are happening. So what will you do? And then they will add layers also. So you belong to this community, they also belong to this community, and and the right side is the other one. Now what will you do? So always go back. There is only one mantra for this. Go back to the constitution. You are, when I joined the service, the first thing that we had was an oath of allegiance to the Constitution of India. So we were made to swear by the Constitution of India and say these words, that I will abide by the ideology of the Constitution, I will abide by the ideas of the Constitution. And this is something which has to be ingrained right now before going to the interview. So this is something that I felt very elated about when I joined the services, that okay, now everything that I have to do is within this mandate. And then that clarity comes to whatever you're answering. So for this question, for example, SP of a riot ridden district. So then you will find that balance, that I will do what the constitution mandates me to do, that is ensuring fraternity, and I will employ XYZ steps, and on police front I'll do this, on administrative front I'll do this, and on a long term basis to have social communal harmony in my district, I'll follow these principles, that I'll take some awareness campaigns, etc., whatever. So this answer is very precise, and every part has been touched upon in only one sentence. So they know that you are aware of all these factors, aspects, first of all. Secondly, they know that you have thought upon all those aspects. Otherwise, what happens if you just go on the policing side for a long time, and in your mind you are like, okay, after 3-4 sentences I am going to come to the other aspect as well. They don't know that, and they don't have all day to listen to you. So in those 25 minutes, put your best foot forward and be very precise in whatever you are saying. Intellectual and moral integrity. So this is where I say that do not write anything that is dishonest in your draft. So if you do not have a hobby at all, then keep it blank. But if you like listening to music in your free time, then phrase it like that. Listening to Hindi Bollywood music, or listening to Western music, or listening to classical music. So in that, be very precise. So you just write listening to music, then it opens up a very wide area of questions. But if you narrow it down, only classical or only Hindustani music, then they'll ask only questions about that. Or if you're very clear, listening to Bollywood music, then they'll go on asking about Bollywood music. Okay, who is a singer that you like? Who is a lyricist that you like? Have you heard about Gulzar? All these questions can come, and you will be comfortable with it. Second point that they've said, technique of the interview / personality test is not that of a strict cross examination, but of qualities of the candidate, which reveal through directed and purposive conversation. So this is one point that I share with everybody. Do not take it as a cross examination. It's not an interrogation. You are not a criminal they have called and they are going to ask you some questions, you have to answer them. It is not question answer. First myth to crack and remove from your brain. It is not question answer. It is not interrogation. It is a conversation. So if you're meeting your friends over tea, or if you're meeting your relatives at a wedding, you're very comfortable talking to each other because you know that it is a conversation that you're having. That same level of comfort has to come when you face the interview board. And for that, you have to have very high self-worth. I am good enough, and I am going to answer whatever, or I am going to discuss with them to the best of my capability and to the best of my traits. The personality test is not intended to be a test either of specialized or general knowledge of the candidates, which has already been tested through their written papers. This is UPSC notification. I am not making this up, or I am not telling you what I feel. These are the words of the UPSC. They are saying that your knowledge has already been tested. We have taken mains, we have taken prelims, and now when you come in front of us, it is not a test of knowledge. It is about how interested you are in things you do. It is how honest you are. It is how suitable you are to the services. And all those personality traits. Content is not to be ignored. Content is what will show them, which will reveal to them your social traits, your emotional traits, whether you have the mental fortitude, whether you're courageous, whether you're brave, or whether you're too cynical or negative. Content is not going to hamper your selection as well. For example, as I said, if you do not know something, if you're unaware about something, if you do not have clarity about something, it is okay. That's okay. They are not looking for that. On the other hand, content is also important in some areas. For example, if it is a hobby or if it is your work experience. And like for example, you are a mechanical engineer. You have worked as a mechanical engineer in the private sector for 2-3 years, and they ask you difference between 2-stroke and 4-stroke engine, and you are not able to answer that. That reflects very poorly. Then the basic question is, have you even done mechanical engineering? Then that integrity question mark comes. That should not happen, and for that, although it has like some years have passed after your graduation or after your last academic achievement, you have to go back and revise everything. Then the third angle is overdoing content. Preparing for personality test, sitting in a study room and surrounded with all these books and everything is not going to take you anywhere. It will give you only average score based on the information you are sharing and all of that. Half of your time has to go on grooming yourself, how you dress on a daily basis. And mind you, try this as an experiment for just 2 days. Go about your normal business, normal routine, wearing formals, wearing shoes which are polished, your hair tidied, shaved, everything in girls in respective attire like a formal dress or something, and you will see a rise in your own confidence. You will feel good about yourself that, oh, I'm dressed very well and people are noticing me. And this is how you have to take small steps towards that confidence building till your interview. And talking to people also in a formal way. So as student, आज यहाँ चलेंगे हम एकदम informally if you talk, and then try talking in English if your medium of interview is English and you have that complex that I do not speak fluent English. Start talking English. That is the only way. Action based improvement is the only way to being comfortable in English. So that is one thing. Candidates are expected to have taken an intelligent interest not only in their special subjects of academic study but also in the events which are happening around them, both within and outside their own state or country, as well as modern currents of thought and in new discoveries which should rouse the curiosity of well-educated youth. So now, for example, India has started as the G20 presidency. So we are the nation who are going to like be the president for a few years, and like all the mandate comes under us. And it is a very big achievement. It is a very big thing in global diplomacy for us as a nation. And if a question is asked to you and you are unaware of it, or you falter at what is G20, tell us something about India's relationship with G20. That shows that you are not interested in the things that are happening around you. As an officer, you are required to be aware of everything happening around you. So I have actually seen some IAS officers working in their offices, and I have seen their routine close up. I have seen them having 6-7 newspapers in various languages coming to their house or office, and they make it a point to be aware of everything that is being reported on a daily basis through those news. So keeping your eyes and ears and all your senses open from this day forward till your interview date is extremely critical. And then they've written well-educated youth. So this is their bare minimum expectation from us. Ki if you're coming for an interview, we expect you to at least read the newspaper on a daily basis, and not read the newspaper just okay headline dekh liya and chhod diya. So I already spoke how to read the newspaper from interview point of view. So this is what notification has given us, so many clues for preparation for the interview. So this sums up what UPSC expects from us. Now going to do's and don'ts on our behalf, what we should do. So the first do is speak constitutionally correct language and your choice of words is very important. So when I say constitutionally correct language, what does it mean? For example, uh, like I said in my previous answer, I use words like superficial, imposed, top down, and we should do this in a different way. These are something very critical, first of all, to hear. Secondly, they are informal. These are not words you will find in official reports. So if you are reading a report of some ministry or Niti Aayog, these are not going to be words they'll use. So it's that basic difference of using but or however in mains. So you don't use but. You always use however. Then secondly, officer-like quality is being tested. Understand why they are asking a question. So for example, I was asked a question that you come from Pune, and Pune University is very famous, and many foreign students come to Pune, and then he colored it in a very negative way. He said, "I think foreign students coming to your city have ruined the city's culture. Pune has been a cultural capital for so long, and now such outsiders are coming, etc., etc." So he was using all those words which I will never use as an officer or during an interview. And I understood where he was directing me. Now, mostly what happens in most interview cases or mock interviews, even I have conducted, I have seen that candidates take that line of thought and they follow that line of thought. Yes, sir, you are very right. This is happening in the city, and I think such and such measures should be taken. I would say when they said balance of judgment in the notification itself, it means that you have to give the other side also. So I opened my answer with, sir, yes, Pune is blessed with a multiplicity of nationality when it comes to students, students from Africa or from even Philippines, Vietnam. They come to Pune University to study, and they come with a culture which is different from us. Pune has its own culture. However, sir, I would say that their culture has not just um, assimilated the Pune people also, the locals also. It has enriched it, because now I see Pune which is accommodative. The locals are accommodative, they are more liberal towards modern ideas, and a cosmopolitan culture has evolved in Pune. On the other hand, when it comes to crime, or when it comes to unruly activities that take place, and when we see that these are the perpetrators were foreign students, these are cases that we have to deal with case by case approach and tackle it with policing or technology or better enrollment of these students, or taking their details in a proper digitized way, so that we have a database of who is actually coming in the city, what their profile is, etc., and not put them all in a single basket and say that culture is being ruined. This is how I balanced my answer. And all my questions, most of my questions were like this. They were directing me in a way that I'll speak something negative. Another question was, don't you think sari is in decline? Nowadays, nobody wears saris. Everybody wears jeans and western clothes, etc., etc. So to that also I answered, sir, this perception that we have that Indian clothing is declining is in itself a wrong premise, because these areas are urbanized or cosmopolitan, but still 90% of India in villages, or my own mother or my own grandmother, my aunt, they wear sari on a daily basis. And secondly, for every woman in India, it is still a go-to attire for their special days like weddings or any other event. And then I countered his premise. I said, sir, rather than decline, I feel that there is a rise of it, because now, because of social media, Instagram, it is being so popular. And secondly, now people are also becoming aware of using sustainable fabric. Like now they don't want power loom sari, they want handloom sari, or they want uh, uh, bamboo fabric, or they don't want rayon and nylon, all these things. So then he gave a wide smile, and he looked at the chairwoman also. He smiled to her also. So I think that was a very positive outlook that I gave them. They were also not expecting it. because everybody nowadays is talking about how globalization is taking over our culture, our identity, etc. And when you show them that you are hopeful of an Indian future, that is what they're looking for. Third most important thing is write down the answers. So once your DAF is filled, after that make a questionnaire. Some classes even give you a ready-made questionnaire. They analyze your DAF and they will give you a questionnaire prepared. You also do that exercise for yourself. Pick up every keyword. For example, my name is Sayali Gaikwad. So what does Sayali mean? Ashok, so King Ashoka's history, Gaikwad. So he was the ruling family of Baroda was Gaikwads. They had a big role in playing in the freedom struggle and all those things, post-independent politics, etc., etc. Okay, fine. Huh. 5 minutes. So all those things. Then last thing I would say is practice in front of the mirror. So mirror practice or video recording or audio recording by friends or family really helps, and it will help you to improve your diction or skills to talk. So that is the last thing I would suggest. And rest, I would, last message to you is stay away from myths like interview marks are luck based, interview cannot be prepared for, then some panels give more marks than some other panels, that is also a different game altogether. Then current affairs, you need to know everything that is happening around you, that is not humanly possible, accept it. And the last thing is, don't have this fear psychosis of the interview. Don't be bogged down and don't carry this burden that I'm going for an interview, and everybody around you also starts noticing it. Oh, he is so tensed. So if you are tensed during the preparation itself, you're obviously not going to get good marks. Being sincere and being tensed are two different things. So the key takeaway from this whole talk is presence of mind and self-belief. You have to be extremely present when you're sitting in that examination interview hall, and believe in yourself, whatever you have achieved or whatever you have not achieved also. Don't feel sorry about it. Don't feel apologetic about it. So with that, I wish you all the best for your interview. Thank you.
नहीं सर आज वहाँ क्लास में
पहले बता दो ना।